Welcome back to the Grenadier podcast, Real Estate Uncovered. Today I speak with Vanessa Williams, General Manager for Marketing and Media for our industry website, realestate.co.nz. You obviously love this business. Tell me what you love the most about it. Today, an absolute exclusive. Welcome back to the Grenadier podcast, Real Estate Uncovered. Vanessa, can you introduce yourself to us?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here today. My name is Vanessa Williams and I have the pleasure of looking after our marketing and media teams at realestate.co.nz.
Fantastic. You analyse trends, you're looking at the New Zealand marketplace. What are you seeing at the moment?
God, it's been such a fascinating market over the last couple of years, hasn't it?
It really has.
It's like a roller coaster. So if we take a look back and we go, all right, pre-COVID, what was happening? It was sort of a bit of a normalised market. We might have seen some ups, some downs, but there wasn't anything too chunky there. Come COVID hits our shores, oh my goodness. And if, the economists would go anything go by, property prices were going to plummet by 30%. I think there were a lot of nervous Kiwis around April of 2020. However, what happened? The exact opposite, actually. We saw Kiwis love two things, property and travel. And when we can't travel, we go to property. So there was a lot of activity in the market, which saw that the property market increased, the prices increased, and we saw a real flux of people coming into the market. Now, everybody's going, oh my goodness, what's happening there? And unfortunately, what does go up must come down. And we started to see that real high taper off around 2020. Now, what's been really interesting in the last 18 months is we've actually seen property prices really flatline. So nationally, we've seen them fluctuate a small portion, around $30,000, between $860,000 and $890,000. And personally, if you ask me, that's quite a nice time to transact because you kind of know what you might sell it for and you kind of know what you might pay for it.
That's so true. And I think I like to call it disaster real estate. When disasters happen, actually our real estate market booms, doesn't it? Because people had all that savings that they couldn't spend over COVID and they couldn't travel, so their other love was getting into property.
Absolutely. And it wasn't making any money in the bank, so you might as well go make some money in property, right?
So you alluded to perhaps what's been happening over the last 12, 18 months. We've gone into a bit more of a balanced marketplace. Is that around the country or is there a few cities bucking the trends? What's happening?
Yeah, we've seen that in majority of the cities across New Zealand. What I will say is the one that completely bucked all of those trends was Central Otago Lakes in the beautiful South Island. For whatever reason, there was definitely overseas interest a lot, but we just saw price increase after price increase after price increase. And actually, that's sitting around $1.6 million on average.
Wow.
Which is, you think that's double the national average asking price, right? So that was a phenomenal market. The West Coast has seen some upward swing of late and actually overtook Southland as our most cost-effective region.
Wow.
But yeah, Auckland's been pretty stable. We've seen Wellington start to pull back. And I think that perhaps is because we're seeing real challenges within the supply down there. Not challenges really, actually there's so much supply down there. So we're starting to see vendors recorrect their prices because of all the competition in the market.
In Christchurch here, we always talk about us being the most affordable metropolitan city in New Zealand. Is that still the case?
That's absolutely still the case, yes, although Wellington's starting to teeter back to where you are as well.
Can you tell us about realestate.co.nz and what role you play in the marketplace and how people can go to your site and what they can glean?
Absolutely. So we pride ourselves on being a marketing platform. So if people are looking to sell their property, that's where they will market it. And we also pride ourselves on providing a property first experience for those consumers. So we have some wonderful competitors out there, but we are totally dedicated to property. There's no 10-inch stilettos or USB chargers on our platform. You can only find property, which is also quite wonderful as well, because if you're sort of a little bit over scrolling social media and you think, I just need some uplifting content, it's quite nice to just scroll through beautiful properties, especially here, and there's a lot of them in the South Island as well. So it's quite a nice way to kind of, scroll through some content, see what's available, and hey, perhaps dreaming, perhaps looking at your next move, or perhaps just doing some research into the area that you are interested in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, going and looking at properties in your location gives you a sense of maybe your own market value, etc. Are there other tools on realestate.co that could help with that type of thing?
Yeah, there are. And I think that's a really important point you make there, Lisa, is that I always encourage buyers and sellers to understand their local market. What are houses around you selling for? Go and visit some open homes, chat to some real estate agents. What is it that is happening in your local market? How fast are properties selling? What is available there? And those experts are really helpful in that area, especially if you're looking at sort of researching around what's going on at the moment in your market. There's lots of data online. You can find data on our site as well, which is really helpful. But, I would say that sort of on-the-ground research and, going to open homes, chatting to the experts, that's where you get the real nuggets of gold.
Absolutely. Is there any unique trends or patterns that you're seeing, and maybe specifically for Christchurch?
Yeah, the Christchurch market was always a very interesting one because while we don't want any earthquakes happening, after the earthquake, what we saw was that the land opened up. There was a lot less red tape to get building consents going through, and also there was a lot of tradespeople down here to rebuild the city. And
yes.
So what that meant was there was a real influx of supply. So the beautiful Christchurch market wasn't as impacted as by some of those highs and lows that the other regions have seen. There was just a steady increase over time, which again, quite a nice market to transact in because you're not worried, my goodness, if I sell my property, am I going to buy another one? Or how much am I going to sell? Now I'm worried about overpaying, which is all the emotions that happened across other areas of the country. But the Christchurch market has seen quite a stable market post those earthquakes, and it's typically because of the influx of supply that we saw, which was, I suppose, the silver lining off the back of those challenges.
Yes, and I think you're so right that, when I'm talking with people, I say to them, we're not a boom and bust market like perhaps some of our other bigger cities in New Zealand. We're much more just that sure and steady as she goes, and, there might be little fluctuations, but you can feel really confident about the investments you make in Canterbury.
You are dead right, and as someone who has to look at all of the other 19 regions in New Zealand, I can 100% attest to that. The data says exactly the same thing.
With the increase in remote work and people working from home, etc., are you noticing anything in terms of that?
We are actually. What's interesting is that not only are we seeing people looking at where they would want to live, but also the configuration of houses as well. I think we've all been to an open home and it's like, right, this is a 4-bedroom house, and you walk in and you're like, that's more of 3 bedrooms and a cupboard. We've all been to those open homes, right? And actually those were quite sought after in COVID because people wanted an at-home office, or they saw more opportunities for a smaller room. So the configuration of the house had changed a little bit as well. But people moving outside of those major cities, it also opened up the ability for people who perhaps didn't have the funding to be able to buy a property in the major centres, and then having to commute was too far. Whereas now, if you can work from home a couple of days a week and come into the office, you don't mind too much of a commute. Maybe it's a bit more time for some more podcasts. But it did mean that people can really open up their options around where they're living and how they're achieving those life goals.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you watch any of the real estate programs on TV, and do you have a particular favourite?
Oh, goodness. I watch too many real estate programs, I think. I mean, I love the $1 Million Listing team. I just think, oh my goodness, imagine walking into like a party as an open home. Like, how fun is that? I'm still waiting for someone, in the New Zealand market to do a little bit more of that stuff. I think it's just so lovely.
I know, it'd be great fun, wouldn't it?
Oh, yeah, get some disco balls out. But, I just think, it's such a pastime of Kiwis. It's in our DNA, right? We just love property. We love talking about it. My goodness, the first thing I go to a barbecue or a dinner party, the first thing, what's happening in the market? Everybody wants to know. And I love that. And I love that about our industry. And I encourage, everyone can be a property expert. Just do some reading, chat to some people, and away you go.
Absolutely. Vanessa, tell us what advice would you have for perhaps prospective buyers in the marketplace?
Yeah, great question. So what I always say is do your research. Now, absolutely, there's lots of data online. Get au fait with it. Get au fait with what those terminologies mean. What's the difference between asking price versus sale price versus valuation? There's a lot of information out there, and do a bit of reading, but also do some on-the-ground research, as I said. Go to some open homes, chat to some real estate agents, go into your local real estate branch, introduce yourself and say, hey, look, I'm looking to buy, or I'm thinking about this, what are my options? But I'd also say get a really good group of experts around you. So think about, do you want a mortgage broker? Would you like to work with your bank? Look at the real estate agent in your area who's selling the type of houses that you want to buy. Because typically a real estate agent will have a bit of a flavor for what type of house they sell. So, work out who it is, and you'll probably become quite friendly with them after you go to a few open homes as well, because you start to realize that the same ones might be within your kind of price bracket or your type of house or your area. But those experts are really going to help you. Speak to some friends and family who've done it before. Look at, what property lawyers are in your area to help you with those transactions. But a lot of it is just being curious, asking questions, reading information, and just get yourself, and then when you're making those big decisions, because it is a big decision, right? And one of the biggest assets you'll ever own probably, don't be afraid of it, but do get yourself upskilled in that.
Yeah, great advice. Finally, anything realestate.co.nz's got innovatively for us in the future you can tell us about?
Oh, well, what I found we've just recently launched, we had a lot of people who were sort of getting a bit frustrated if they'd seen that 4-bedroom house that was only 3 bedrooms with a cupboard, and they wanted to be able to just acknowledge that they had seen it in their search and it wasn't for them. So we've just recently launched the ability to minimize that listing. But the best part as well is that you can actually let the real estate agent know why that property is not good for you. And that also helps the real estate agent to feed that back to their vendor to say like, hey, maybe the price is a little bit too high, or the configuration's not quite working for people in this market. So it's a really helpful tool, especially if you're serious in the market, to be able to go, I've seen that house, and actually I want to feed this back to the real estate agent, to the vendor, to let them know why this isn't right for me. So it's been very well received, and the real estate agents are loving as well to give themselves some information about what the market's saying about their properties they've got for sale.
That's an excellent tool, because all we want to do is be able to give owners feedback, right? And so we're getting it from knowledgeable buyers. So that's a fantastic tool.
Yeah, what's the market saying? We'll tell you.
Vanessa, thank you so much, and thank you for all the work you and your team do at realestate.co.nz.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. Lovely to chat with you, Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Real Estate Uncovered. I hope you really enjoyed the show. If you did, please give us 5 stars and leave a review. This really helps others find our podcast.